I'd love to know your responses, guys, to that question as well. What a great question that is. If you could pick 3 Birmingham City players that you'd like to add to this current squad, let us know in the comments below. So welcome back to BCFC Royal Blue. Now, we recently put out a community post on our YouTube page asking fans, Birmingham City fans, for questions that they'd like myself and Matt to discuss during the podcast. And we had a fantastic response from that community post, so much so that there was enough questions for 2 podcasts. Now, we did one podcast, I think it was last week that it went out, to answer the first batch of questions. And in this podcast, we're going to go through another batch of questions that fans have asked. So I'm going to ask the questions, and then I'll get Matt's response, and then chip in with mine. So I shall start off with the first question, Matt.
Yeah, go for it.
In fact, actually, there's 2 similar questions here, so I'll read out, but they're very short. Okay. The first one is from Lewis M9815. Thank you for your question, Lewis. The question is, there's a good feeling around the club at the minute. It's amazing. If they build this new stadium that they're talking about, how would you feel about leaving St.Andrews? Personally, I love the place, always wanted a new ground, but now it's a possibility. I feel some sadness. And then there's another question that came in very similar to that from Jimmy Jackson 2113, who said, when is the new stadium complex going to start being built? So just go on to the first part and then onto the second afterwards.
Yeah,
okay?
I think 2 great questions. To be fair, all the questions have been great, haven't they? And again, just want to reiterate your point, Dad. Thank you very much for sending in everything. It's always great that we get that engagement, isn't
Absolutely.
it? So thank you very much. So for me, I will be absolutely gutted to leave St Andrews. It's all I've ever known. I remember 1996, I think it was December 3rd, Birmingham City 0, Barnsley 0. That was my first ever home game that you took me to, Dad. And
Classic.
Even then, as a ball draw, that was when I fell in love with football. It's when I heard Keep Right On and the roar of the Tilton for the first time. I think we've only ever really sat in the Tilton. We have had pockets of games in the cup.
But that game, your first game from memory, I think we was in the paddock. I think
we were, yeah.
Which is now known as Arthur's area.
We were in the family stand. I remember now. Yeah, we were. Yeah, but it was just absolutely incredible, and I loved it. And I've got such memories of St Andrews, and I hope when the new stadium's built, we can somehow bring a bit of legacy with us. Maybe we bring the bricks from the Cop, or maybe there's a name of a bar in there. I don't know what that looks like, but it'd be great to bring the history forward with us.
I'm sure they will.
To the future, the future stadium as well. In terms of when will the complex be built, I mean, you're probably better, more educated and qualified to answer this, Dad, as a building surveyor. But I would say the next couple of years, because they have a lot of work to do to even clear the site to get it ready for the build, don't they?
Yeah, I agree with you. I'll be very sad. You say it's all you've ever known. It's all any of us have ever known. It's been over 100 years. I'll be very sad to leave St Andrews. I think it's an amazing stadium, and it's got over the years it's with the redevelopments it's had, the atmosphere hasn't really changed that much. I mean, obviously there's nothing like the old Cop, and people my age will remember standing on the Cop and how that stadium was. But it is going to be a wrench to leave there. But we're going to be going to a brand new spanking stadium that I think after a month or 2. People will get used to. In terms of when it will be built, Tom Wagner wants it. He was talking about 2029. That's a bit of a stretch. I think there is a couple of years of remediation. So they've got to. There's things like Japanese knotweed there, contaminated land. They've got to get all the old buildings off. Remember, it was a go-kart track, so there's going to be fuel and petrol and stuff like that. So there's a lot of work just to prepare the and then there's the build as well. I mean, a stadium of that size doesn't get built overnight. Realistically, we're in 2024 at the moment, aren't we? I'm guessing, and I don't know for certain, but I think you'd be looking at 2030, 2031, which sounds a long way away.
6 or 7
years from now. That's what my guess would be. If Tom Wagner's watching that, he goes, no, he's like, no, I want it earlier than that. But I think realistically, and also as well, we have to bear in mind that the club has spent an absolute fortune on this current ground, so they know that we're going to be here for a few years. But it's a great question. I think.
What are you doing to me, Gary?
He probably does that in the boardroom with Gary Cook every single week. But I think it's a good question, because obviously the hype around the stadium when it was first announced was massive. Then we had the trauma of relegation. I think it was only right and proper that it did go in the back burner. But I think it will start to we'll start to see the plan is evolving very, very soon. I'm presuming that they've instructed architects and all other professionals. But it'll be exciting times, and I don't think it's going to be immediate though.
It's going to take time.
It will happen. So thank you guys for those questions.
Great
Really good. This is a good question as well. This is from Subaru 2. Bit of fun, this one, he said. If you could pick any 3 past players that would fit into the current Blues side, who would you pick and why? Personally, if we could get Jude back, have a prime Joe Hart and a prime Forsell, I reckon we would easily get out of the championship. That's from Rue, DJ Subrex, pronounced Subrex. New subscriber, loving the channel. So.
Yeah.
Great question. Thank you very much for that question. Made me think this did.
That is a great question.
What's yours?
I had two sort of thoughts on it. I went really old school, and I was thinking about like Gil Merrick and Joe Bradford and Bob Latchford and Trevor Francis. And then I was thinking about sort of my generation. I was thinking about like Obafemi Martins and Martin Granger and Mikael Forsell's a great shout. I loved Mikael Forsell.
When I saw this, I thought I was going to put right on a piece of paper Martin Granger and say, tell me, and then you'd say Martin Granger and I'd hold it up. So I know how much you love Martin Granger.
Stephen Carr, all these players, really loved watching them play. But for me, here's my 3. So I've gone Trevor Francis. I can't not include Trev, for everything you've told me, Dad, everything. Club legend, Trevor Francis.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've gone Christophe Dugarry.
Yeah.
I loved Christophe Dugarry. In fact, I still stand by, in terms of raw talent, he's arguably one of the best Blues players I've ever seen. Just by talent, he was absolutely incredible. And my final one, a bit of a curveball. Not too sure whether many people would expect this. I've gone keeper as well, but I've gone David Seaman.
I thought about him.
Yeah,
I thought about him. He was a good goalkeeper for us. He was obviously went on to Arsenal and did great things there.
Do you remember watching him play?
Yes, I do. Yeah. No, because he was in the team. David Seaman was in the team when I used to watch the Blues. Yeah. And he loved the Blues as well. He did.
I always memory of David Seaman, Arsenal, when they played us at St.Andrews in the Invincibles year. The Blues fans were singing "Seaman is a blue nose," and he'd get the ball and go. So clearly, he really liked the club and had that banter with the fans.
They're good chefs. Now it's interesting because you said, I was going to go old school. I have gone old school with a couple of mine because I've gone for Trevor as well. I'm never going to pick a Birmingham City side without the great Trevor in it. He's an absolute.
I don't think we're true Birmingham City without Trevor being not too far away, are we?
No. He's 329 appearances for the Blues, 133 goals. I mean, that's not a bad record as well. Yeah. I've also, you mentioned him, Bob Latchford. He was the same era as Trevor. 193 appearances and 84 goals for us, and he was a proper goal scorer. He was, and I remember when I was a kid. Every time you'd put the results came up on it wasn't like a Saturday like they have nowadays, like a soccer Saturday. You did just get your BBC had put the
like
results
teletext
on.
almost.
There wasn't even teletexting in. There wasn't telly actually in my day, but you get the scores come up and it always like Bob Latchford, and I just remember because I was young at the time as well, but I remember he was a proper Blues hero, Bob Latchford, and he was a proper goal scorer. If you put Trevor Francis and Bob Latchford in that side.
Yeah,
brilliant. So my third choice is someone a bit more who you will know, who was in the team that you've been watching, is Seb Larson.
Yeah, Seb Larson's a brilliant shout. Yeah.
I thought he was great, and he was quality. He was. We got him from Arsenal. And I used to love him in the season. He was so creative. Always could put a pass, score some great goals as well.
Did, yeah.
So for me, it would be Trevor Francis, Bob Latchford, and Seb Larson. I'd love to know your responses, guys, to that question as well. What a great question that is. If you could pick 3 Birmingham City players that you'd like to add to this current squad, let us know in the comments below. It'd be interesting to see what they come up with.
Brilliant, yeah.
Okay. So next question comes from Marvin PA1. Hypothetical question. This is a good question. It really made me think. If we still had the previous owners at the club, would we still be in the Championship? Or if we were still relegated, would we have gone down again this year to League Two? I don't want to bust the great vibe we have at the club at the moment, but I'd like to know your thoughts. Cheers, His handle is Marvin. But his name is but cheers, Martin, in brackets, not Marvin. So thank you for the question, Martin.
Yeah,
change your handle. Don't put Marvin as your handle if your name's Martin. It's really confusing. But thank you very much for the question and a great question. So do you want to answer that question, Matt?
Yeah, so it's a great question. Thank you very much for sending it in, Martin. No, really is genuinely a great question. And this had me thinking as well. And you know what? I'm going to call it yes. I think if we had the previous owners, we would still be in the Championship, but we would be rotting in the Championship and we would be flirting with relegation consistently again. We'd have no ambition. We'd have nothing to look forward to, nothing exciting. So yes, we would arguably, and I think, be a Championship club, but it would be going nowhere. And I don't know whether many Blues fans agree with this, but I think relegation was the best thing to happen to this club because it pressed the reset button. We have great owners. We've managed to spend this transfer window without FFP ready, hopefully, not getting too carried away or arrogant, hopefully ready to get back in the Championship. And let's just say we do bounce back. We do move straight from League One into Championship. That's what's all on our minds. That's the goal for this season. We will be competitive again in the Championship, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Whereas we won't be rotting away. We won't be just sitting hoping we don't get relegated year on year. We're going to go back and we're going to be competitive in the Championship. So yes, we may have survived the drop if the previous ownership, but we would have been worse off because we would have just been rotting away again for years in the Championship.
Okay, second part of that question is, if we had gone down this year, do you think we would have gone down again?
Under the previous ownership,
Yeah.
arguably yes,
Yeah.
because they wouldn't have invested like Knighthead have. They wouldn't have pumped all the money in. They wouldn't have. There's something different in the club this year, isn't there? So, I mean, would we have gone down? That's impossible to answer. I mean, I think we would have been struggling. I can tell you that much for sure.
Definitely. Okay, so to answer your questions, I disagree. I mean, you're entitled to your answer and your response, but I disagree with you. I think if the previous owners were in charge of the club last season, we would have still got relegated. Because
they wouldn't have sacked Eustace, though. They wouldn't have brought Rooney in. The whole circus wouldn't have arrived at the club.
Yeah, but even so, you know, the quality of players, we had all those players coming towards the end of their contracts, and you know, I think a lot of that wouldn't have mattered if the manager had changed. I think those players would have still been. I'm not going to name names because that's not fair on the players, but
under Eustace, Mowbray, and Rowett, we had a points average of a top half Championship team.
And who's to say though? If again, this is all hypothetical because the question's hypothetical.
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah.
Who's to say though? If Eustace had stayed and done well, that he wouldn't have been poached off anyway because somebody would have took him anyway. I think we would have got relegated.
Fair enough. Right,
I think we'd have got relegated anyway. And I agree with you about your second part. Absolutely, I think that if we'd have got relegated under our previous owners, I don't know whether we'd go down to League Two, but we would have been struggling. We'd be mid-table.
I'd be looking down, not up.
Yeah, we would do as well. So, good. But thankfully, we've got our fantastic new one. It's almost like a dream, isn't it? You know, sometimes you wake up and you think, is this really happening to our club?
Yeah.
So many years in the doldrums. But thank you very much for that question, Martin. Really interesting question to ask. Next question, Matt. I love this handle. Neil Orange Peel has asked us two questions, really. Given what we currently know about Chris Davis and what we know about Tony Mowbray as a proven manager, would you swap? And how do you think the team compares to Barry Fry's double-winning team?
Well, I'll definitely answer the first part. Second part, you're possibly more qualified than me, Dad. But the first part, you know, I love Tony Mowbray. It's great to see him back to full health. It was brilliant to see him at the Wigan game. And I think the fact that he's universally loved by every club he's ever been to speaks volumes about the man, doesn't he? He's just brilliant. Having said that, Chris Davis is onto something. I love the style of football we're playing. I love the momentum we have as a club now. So, I mean, in short, no, I wouldn't swap them. I'd keep Chris Davis. I think he's onto a winner, as I say. He's now got the squad he wants. He's got the setup he wants. He's young. He is obviously trying to develop his career. So we're the first club that he's going to try and push on to keep building and developing. I think he's changed our style completely. So in short, I would like to keep Chris Davis, but Mowbray's a legend. I love Tony Mowbray.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just call it what it is. And in terms of are we similar to the Barry Fry, I mean, you've mentioned this a few times to me, Dad. I mean, obviously for me, I would have been 4 or 5, so very loose memories for me. But you mentioned about chaotic football. You know, they scored 4, we had to score 5, or whatever it was with Barry Fry.
Barry Fry didn't mind how many we conceded as long as we scored more goals than the opposition.
Yeah, exactly. So I wouldn't say we're close to that necessarily. I mean, we are conceding goals, but that's not due to chaotic football. That's just us adjusting to 17 players coming in. So I'd say no. I think I think the setup we have this year is absolutely incredible. The football we're playing this year is incredible. And I trust Chris Davis.
Yeah, I think that I like the fact that Chris Davis is a young new coach with new ideas, new philosophies. Tony Mowbray is a proven manager, as the questions told us, and you know what you're going to get with Tony Mowbray. You're going to get stability, and he wants to play this brand of football.
Great manager.
Yeah, I just think that if I had to choose between the two, same as you, really, I'd be very torn, but I'd err on the side of Chris Davis only because he's got all these new ideas, and that he's basically already in a short period of time has completely changed our team in a way. We were completely different. You wouldn't even know if you watched the two. You wouldn't know they were the same team. If you come down and see us last season and can see us now. I know it's new players, but it's not just the players, it's the style of play and the way we're playing. So I would plump for Chris Davis, but like you said, love Tony Mowbray, and he'll always have even he was with us for a short period of time, he'll always have a place in the Blues fans' hearts.
Absolutely.
And the interesting one as well about how do you compare to Barry Fry's double winning team? I think that this team that we have today is much better in terms of the quality and standard of players. So therefore, they should be better. But the problem is that League One is of a much higher standard now than it was then.
Right.
So even though the Blues team is better, so are all the other teams. So actually, it's not a straight comparison. If this team that we've got today was to drop into Barry Fry's era, they would absolutely, completely dominate that league. But I think every team has got better and better. So the quality and standard of League One is now much, much higher, in my opinion. And that's definitely because I remember some of the games against when we were down there in what was the old third division then, and I remember some of the way we played, and it was very gung ho, football with Barry Fry, very exciting at times, and sometimes very, very frustrating because we were conceding lots of goals as well. But it was a great time. I used to love it. I used to, I think every Blues fans will look back with affection on Barry Fry's time as manager. But yeah, to answer that question, I think that it's a difficult comparison because I think we have got a much, much better squad today compared to what Barry Fry had.
Yeah.
But as I said, the factor of the different standard of football is massive.
The style of football's completely changed. Back then, it was kind of hoof and hope, weren't it? A lot, a lot of long balls, a lot of pinging it up and hoping for the best. Whereas now it's a lot more calculated. There's a lot more skill involved. A lot more tactician from the managers involved. Football's completely changed since the early 90s.
In those days as well, the pitches weren't as good as well.
Yeah.
You'd have muddy pitches, you'd be playing on frost and all sorts of different stuff. And
I tell you what was good about the 90s, which I prefer to modern football, the challenges that used to go in. And, well, not the 90s, but even going back to the 60s and 70s, blokes would be lamping each other and the ref wouldn't send them off. It was just part of the game, and now you in them days, breathe past them.
In them days, if you came off the pitch with both legs, that was a bonus.
But
there were some really strong challenges going in. But nowadays, it's all been in a way. I can see from a safety point of view to a point where that works. But football's a physical game, and I think that's been taken out.
Everyone loves a big challenge.
Yeah.
Again, safely. You don't want to break any legs. No one wants to see a genuine injury happen. But
well, no, you got two.
Yeah. But I think men were made slightly differently in the 50s and 60s. Look at Georgie Best. Have a look at some of the clips of Georgie Best in his prime. He's getting lamped left, right, and centre. He's literally getting inches taken out of his calves, from the defenders. But anyway, different era, different time. What I will say similar about the Barry Fry is Chris Davis' passion. He's running up and down the touchline. Remember that goal against Wigan, Dad, last minute? He was absolutely running down. So I guess that's a little bit of a similarity if we're going to make one.
Yeah, definitely. So just one final question to finish in. This is from Up the Blues 1. Thank you very much for the question. And again, a question I think on the lips of a lot of Blues fans is what formation do you think Blues will play with Stansfield joining?
So I think he'll keep the 4-2-3-1 and I think he'll play Stansfield in the attacking right mid. We saw against Walsall, Chris Davis was clearly trialling some stuff out. He tried Stansfield up top and then sort of Alfie May in the 10 and then a little bit out wide. We all saw that it didn't work. And we know that Stansfield can be effective when he gets the chance to run in the back, even if he's on the wings. Could he change it to have two up front? Could he, effectively completely change our formation? I have no idea, but I trust Chris Davis because there has been rumours he could change to 5 at the back with wing backs, and we could possibly have 2 up front, couldn't we? Or something like that. I mean, the idea of Alfie May and Jay Stansfield as an attacking 2 is absolutely frightening. But I think 4-2-3-1 and Stansfield will be in the attacking right mid.
Yeah, I can't see Chris Davis having a fundamental change of formation to accommodate Jay Stansfield. I think you'll be probably right in what you said. He'll stick with what he's done and try and find a way of bringing Stansfield into that formation. because that's what he's coached into the player since he's been there. That's the formation that they now know. So to have I mean, Chris Davis is pretty clever in terms of, we know that he's got a great background in coaching. So, and he's tactically, he's been alongside some really, really good managers. So he has got the ability to change the formation if he wants, but he will know how not difficult that could be. But it's like we're trying to teach the players a completely different formation. So I agree with you. I think it will be 4-2-3-1. Yeah. So it'd be great to know what you guys think about any of the questions that we've gone through today, and obviously put your responses down in the comments below. Always great to hear what you've got to say. We do hope you've enjoyed this video. So if you did, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't checked us out on our social media channels, make sure you pop along to our X page and our Instagram page. And you'll also be able to see and hear these podcasts on Spotify. And you'll see the handles for all of those appearing on the screen right now. And of course, if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any future content all about Birmingham City. And myself and Matt will see you on the next video.